It's now nearly 40 years since we made this film. The main theme of the film really brings us right to today because it is about searching. The whole theme can really be resolved in 3 very simple words. What is a searcher? What is a search? That's the entire theme of the film. Meetings with the Remarkable Men, Mr. Gurdjieff's book, is really about a whole series of members of a very special, intimate brotherhood, searchers of truth. How they became aware that there was a truth that needs to be searched for again and again and again. How they came together, and how one by one each stopped inevitably and gave up at a certain point, except for one person whom we follow from childhood through to the end of the film, which again is only a beginning, when his search has reached a point when we could feel with him the search is over, to find that this is the beginning of his taking all that he has discovered in himself and with the others into the everyday world, where years and years and years of his life were devoted to renewing and developing this search. This all began when Madame de Salzmann said to me, I would like to make a film out of meetings with remarkable men. Could you come and help? I was, of course, overwhelmed with this extraordinary possibility that she opened, and at that moment began a first search, which was to find how to construct the film, where to make it, in what country, with whom. And we went through many, many different possibilities before finding Afghanistan, a country whose quality unfortunately no longer exists, but which at that time had a deep quality that was there in the eyes and the faces of the most simple people. And with Madame de Salzmann, we began to develop a scenario. And at that moment, there was a tremendous temptation. Meetings with remarkable men is about many, many people. And we were tempted to open, as much as we could, this reference to the different people who were members of Seekers for Truth. When the film was completed, because I can now skip to the essential, when the film was completed, it had been made over quite a period of time, and Jean-Claude Lubchansky had been involved from the very start, from all the search for the location, from the distribution, the casting, from all the technical elements that involved. He was in every way deeply involved in every part of the production. He was the closest collaborator with Madame de Salzmann through every moment of the shooting and every moment of the subsequent finishing. When this film was completed and shown and then widely distributed, Madame de Salzmann, who was never easily satisfied with anything, in fact was never felt that anything on any level really attained the point that she hoped for and which she always searched for in her life and in all her activities, she felt that the film was not at all the film she had hoped for. And this left a question for us, which enabled us a few years ago to say, let's go back and look at all the material and see if we can't find ways of developing what we have. And at that point, it became very clear where the film lost its essential path was that the real story is how a unique, extraordinary young child receives impressions that awaken him the need to become a searcher, how this turns into a search which he cannot do alone, and when he sees that the remarkable men are necessary stages for him leading to the essential search, which was for this unique hidden monastery, the Salzmann Brotherhood. Nobody knew what the name covered, where it could be, but he, with the help of one person and other, each person was like a signpost leading to different parts of the country, to different contacts with wise teachers who could just help with a certain new indication, and through all these signposts, he eventually reached his first goal, the Salzmann Monastery, and the teaching that it contained and that was still alive in those days. That is an enormous tale, but we found that the simple, pure line of following the young Gurdjieff's search was lost by the fact that we'd been tempted to give a little too much importance to what was of lesser interest and took away from this pure dynamic line running through the story. So, looking at the film again with Jean-Claude, we began to see that it was possible to eliminate, just to lighten something by shortening, taking away, and even correct certain things that were too anachronistic. It was perfectly natural as a convention of storytelling for all the different characters apparently living in a faraway Afghanistan to have, in English, different foreign accents. That's a convention that seemed completely real. But there were certain young men who had not just foreign accents, but typical young British upper-class accents. And that at once was too much of an anachronism. It didn't help our concentration on the main line and feeling the main line. We were just amused for a moment, but distracted. So it was that process of paring away, changing, shortening some of the dialogue, taking away some of these little unnecessary aspects that took the attention away from the main story. And so the new version was the same film, a little shorter, a little lighter, all of those, the shortness and the lightness, making it possible from the first to the end to follow the fine line, which was, we know, the reason why from the start Madame de Salzmann, so close, more than close, to every aspect of Mr. Gurdjieff's work and teaching, what made it for her at a certain moment right to set in motion this whole process of turning Mr. Gurdjieff's book into a film. And so now, nearly 40 years later, we're very happy to feel that this can come as the same film and yet as a new film and reach in a new way a new audience who we hope will be as deeply touched by the essential core of the book as we have been, and which has brought us to this point now.